Behind the Red Line, Episode 31. Arthur Shawcross, the Genesee River Ghost. Bodies don't float for long in the Genesee River. The cold drags them under. The current keeps its secrets. And when the water gives something back, it's never whole, never clear, never easy to understand. In Rochester, New York, during the late 1980s, women began vanishing from the streets. Women surviving through sex work, addiction, poverty. Women the city ignored. Women the killer believed no one would ever come looking for. For 2 years, someone hunted them. Someone watched the street corners, the alleys, the bridges, the riverbanks. Someone who fed on invisibility. Someone who walked among the living by day and hunted at night. Tonight, we step into the cold, into the fog, into the world of a killer who pretended to be harmless, but left a trail of horror behind him. This is Behind the Red Line, Episode 31, The Genesee River Ghost. Rochester was a city between lives. Factories shutting down, unemployment rising, a growing drug trade gripping Monroe Avenue and Lyle Avenue. Sex work became survival work, and survival work became dangerous. Women stood at corners beneath burnt-out streetlights. Dealers ran the blocks. Cops drove by slowly, but rarely stopped for anything that didn't explode. And in that kind of environment, a predator had cover. Not because he was smart, not because he was careful, but because people in power weren't watching the right places. The women who went missing had things in common. Many battled addiction. Many did survival sex work. Many were houseless or bouncing between shelters. Many had no consistent family reporting them missing. Many were last seen in the same few blocks. It was a hunting ground created by abandonment. A system failure wearing the mask of a city. And a killer stepped right into that space. She was found near the banks, partially submerged, caught on a fallen tree. She had a name, a life, friends who loved her, but the city didn't recognize her at first. Detectives looked at the body and assumed drug overdose, street life incident, nothing to see here. They moved on quickly, too quickly. The killer watched and learned something from the city's silence. No one was connecting the dots, so he kept going. Women kept disappearing. Some were last seen getting into a car. Some were last seen walking toward the riverbank area. Some were last seen arguing with someone no one remembered clearly. And every time a woman vanished, The response was the same. She'll show up. She's probably using. She left on her own. No evidence of foul play. It was the kind of willful blindness that serial killers thrive in. The victim's friends whispered to each other at night, "Someone is taking our girls. Someone out there is hunting us." And one woman said, "He's quiet. I can feel it. Someone quiet." They were right. He was quiet. Too quiet. A bicyclist was riding along the river near the Veterans Memorial Bridge. He stopped at the scent, something foul, metallic, rotten. He looked down the embankment and saw fabric, hair, a shape that shouldn't be there. Detectives responded, assuming a single murder. But then another body appeared. Then another. Then evidence pointing to more, spread across fields, woods, marshland, and river water. And suddenly the city realized the women weren't missing. They had been murdered. The press jumped in. The city panicked. And sex workers, the women who lived closest to danger, were terrified. Someone was targeting them. Someone strong enough to overpower them. Someone confident enough to keep using the same hunting ground. Someone who blended in. A ghost. He wasn't a drifter. He wasn't a shadowy alley figure. He wasn't a monster lurking in a basement. He was a man people waved to. A man who laughed. A man who fixed cars. A man who bought coffee at the same corner store every morning. A man who women entered cars with, thinking he was safe. Arthur Shawcross. A seemingly ordinary man with a girlfriend, hobbies, and a mild, almost boring personality. But beneath the surface, something twisted lived inside him, a desire to dominate, silence, and destroy the vulnerable. He offered rides, warmth, cash, a moment of safety. Then he took everything back. Detectives, now finally taking the murders seriously, began building a pattern. Last seen locations, witness statements, tire tracks, river access points, body placement consistency, weather patterns, time windows. Profiler John Douglas even assisted. His conclusion? The killer will revisit his dump sites. He feels ownership. Police increased surveillance along the Genesee River. They watched the bridges, the embankments, the woods, and then they spotted someone, a man in a car, parked near a known dump site, eating lunch and staring at the river for a long, too long time. License plate check. Name, Arthur Shawcross. A criminal record that made blood run cold. Detectives began following him. What they discovered was chilling. He drove into secluded areas with no reason. He circled zones where bodies had been found. He watched sex workers from a distance, slowly, deliberately, like he couldn't help himself. They knew. They had their ghost, but they needed proof. One morning, detectives tailed Shawcross as he entered a wooded area. He stayed too long. He emerged, wiping his hands on his jeans. He drove off quickly. Investigators moved in and found evidence. Fresh, damning, undeniable. The ghost had left fingerprints, fiber traces, items belonging to the missing. The Genesee River ghost was no longer a ghost. He was a man, and that man was Arthur Shawcross. During interrogation, Shawcross didn't break immediately. He played dumb, soft voice, polite demeanor, acting like he couldn't hurt a fly. But when confronted with evidence, when detectives listed each woman by name, when the weight of his own patterns smothered him, he began to talk, not in screams, not in rage, but casually, softly, as though discussing errands. He described luring the women. He described conversations, arguments, moments where he claimed he lost control. He tried to paint himself as the victim, the misunderstood, the fragile one. But the truth was clear. He targeted the vulnerable because they had the least protection, because he thought no one would care, because he believed he could keep killing forever. And he almost did. These women deserve more than whispers in the dark, more than footnotes in true crime history, more than headlines calling them prostitutes instead of human beings. They were mothers, daughters, sisters, women fighting addiction, women trying to survive poverty, women who deserved safety, dignity, and life. Their stories matter. Their last moments should never be overshadowed by the man who took them. Behind the red line exists for this reason: to speak their names in a world that too often forgets them. Arthur Shawcross believed the river would hide his crimes. He believed no one cared enough about the missing women to look deeper. He believed he was smarter than the systems that ignored the vulnerable. But the river gives everything back eventually. Every secret, every lie, every scream. And when it did, the ghost stopped haunting the living. But the story doesn't end with him. It ends with the women who deserved more, and with the reminder that predators thrive wherever society stops paying attention. This is Behind the Red Line, Episode 31, The Genesee River Ghost.